Welcome to you all, and welcome to Behind the Music with London Symphonia. My name is Andrew Chung. I'm artistic producer of London Symphonia. And Behind the Music is our series of pre-concert chats where we invite our guest artists and special guests to talk a little bit more and a little bit deeper about the music you're going to hear in the concert coming up. So we've got a concert coming up on December the 20th. It's called Frost, Fire, and Brass. And today I've got two special guests. Firstly, I've got Lindsay Schindler. Hello, Lindsay.
Hello.
So Lindsay is one of the key members of Rant Maggie Rant, and Rant Maggie Rant is our special guest band appearing with us. And we've also got Scott Good, and hello, Scott.
Hi, everyone.
So Scott Good, very familiar face to London Symphonia fans. Scott Good is a composer and arranger. He's our composer in residence at London Symphonia, and he's the co-curator of our upcoming show. Okay, well, welcome to you both. So for London Symphonia fans who don't really know Rant Maggie Rant yet, I'm just going to read a little bit of something here, just talking about Rant Maggie Rant, if you just bear with me. So Rant Maggie Rant brings an arsenal of instruments, styles, and substance to their shows with versatility and virtuosity. The band has members based in Stratford, London, and points in between, and the band's personality shines through as a collective of unique and different artists in their own right, the sum of which create unforgettable moments on stage. For more than a decade, this multi-award-winning band has consistently roused audiences from coast to coast. So, Lindsay, you know, when we let's talk about how this concert, Frost, Fire, and Brass, came to be. Rant Maggie Rant has been around since when?
We began in about 2009, and we began doing a holiday show which we called Frost and Fire the following year in 2010.
Excellent. Now, normally you guys do a London show, and I think that's at Aeolian Hall.
It is, yes. Normally we do a series of shows every year this time called Frost and Fire, and we tour them kind of all over the place. We've gone out west, out east, all over Ontario, but we always try and do what we call our hometown shows, one in Stratford and one in London at Aeolian Hall.
Great. You've performed with orchestra before?
We have, never in London, but we have played with a few different orchestras, including Windsor, the International Symphony, Vancouver Island, Georgian Bay, but this will be our first in London.
So orchestral debut in London. So
Yeah.
excited. And so originally when we were talking about this program, we were, and I was talking with Scott especially, we were talking about a full orchestra concert with Rant Maggie Rant. Scott, you curated a beautiful holiday season show last year. And, you know, for this year we were thinking, well, let's ask Rant Maggie Rant. It'll be certainly a different flavor than what we've brought before. And from full orchestra, we were all, you know, full steam ahead. And then COVID hit, of course. And then we had to change things. So how did we end up with Brass and Rant Maggie Rant show?
Well, at Christmas time for me, well, first off, I'm a trombone player, so I have an inherent bias for these sorts of issues. But at Christmas, especially when you think of the tradition of the Salvation Army brass ensembles collecting donations to help people, brass instruments are sort of a common and familiar sound around the season. So we thought that combining the brass, bringing a horn section to the Rant Maggie Rant show would make a really great fit.
And it's high energy music, and I think that brass just really, really fits to give some pop and some punch, right?
Yeah, it's good. Gives a nice rich sonority as well as, yeah, some dynamic punch for sure.
Awesome. Lindsay, tell me, how did you get the name Rant Maggie Rant?
That's an interesting question. We were, you know, toying around with a bunch of different names. At the time we were playing a few different songs with Maggie's Rant and some other similar titles, and at the same time, we realized that two or three of the band members had grandmothers named Maggie. So we knew we wanted to use Maggie. We liked Rant. And it was suggested to us by an artistic director to use Rant Maggie Rant. So we ran with it.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a great name for a
It's
band.
totally a great name. Totally great. So I
It's
think
unique.
it seems to me that what's unique about what you guys do is it comes down to the individual band members in your group, and you're Celtic group, but you're performing with these sort of different elements. Okay, so quick quiz: 7 nations, the 7 Celtic nations. Lindsay, go. Who are they?
Well, the most common, popular that everybody thinks of when they think of Celtic, of course, Ireland and Scotland. Then we have Wales, Isle of Man, Brittany, Cornwall, and the lesser known Galicia.
Oh,
Yeah. Now that's a very highly debatable issues how many Celtic nations there are, but we say 7.
you're very inclusive. Very good.
Yes.
Very good. So the members of Rant Maggie Rant. So you are one of the original members.
Yeah.
And you are a fiddler extraordinaire. I've seen you in action. Oh my goodness. And you also sing backup vocals.
I do. Yeah.
All of the members sing.
Everybody sings. Yes.
Yeah. And there will be 5 of you on stage with our, how many piece brass band?
12.
12-piece brass band and a flute.
And a flute, yeah.
And percussion.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a big show. So we've got Lindsay. She's fiddler. Has classical roots as well. We've got Rob LaRose, and he what's his specialty?
Well, that's a good question. I would say Latin percussion. I know he studied classical percussion at UWO and jazz at Humber, but he really pulls out the kind of Latin chops a lot with Rant Maggie Rant.
Cool. And we've got Barry Payne.
Yeah, Barry, coming from Stratford and, originally from London though, actually. And he has a bit more of a punk rock kind of background, which you might kind of get in some of those guitar lines that he puts with Rant, but also now performs as kind of a folk country artist. So it's pretty diverse.
Okay. And then let's see, a new vocalist for you guys, Jennifer Thorpe.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then Jennifer replaced one of your original band members recently. So this is just 2020 or 2019.
Yes, actually in 2020. Sadly, she hasn't had that many opportunities to perform as part of Rant Maggie Rant just yet, but she's a fabulous vocalist. Specializes in jazz, but she also plays a variety of instruments. She plays keyboard, accordion, and has the most fiery red hair and amazing personality. So we can't wait for our London people to meet and see Jennifer with us.
That's a big deal, when you change up one of your lead vocalists. And so were you looking for the possibility to go in a new direction with a different singer, or to keep the same sort of original, intent and stylings, or what were you thinking?
I think we want to keep somewhat the same core style, I suppose, but you're always looking to grow and evolve. And we're looking more at writing our own material and becoming maybe a bit more contemporary, but still with that kind of Celtic instrumentation and feel, and everybody's different spice added to it. But I think you're always looking to grow, and we definitely looked at it as an opportunity to change a little bit. Yeah.
And so you perform traditional Celtic tunes with a contemporary twist, but then you're also composing new Celtic tunes. And what is that? Like, how do you compose a new, Celtic-based song?
Well, I guess that's what defines Celtic, I guess.
You got 7 nations to choose from, so yeah.
You do, yeah. There's so much variety there. You know, I don't know how to answer that.
I guess
As far as writing jigs and reels, you're keeping to the standard 8-bar form with the A B repeat, standard chord progressions, but maybe just creating your own melody.
mm-hmm. Yeah, so a very fresh melody,
Mm-hmm.
and that's great. That's neat.
One thing that I've been kind of working at when I'm writing tunes is, you know, very often when you've got these traditional tunes, they utilize 2 of the 4 strings on the fiddle. So you're playing on the bottom 2, and then maybe the B part will go to the top 2, or vice versa. But it doesn't very often use the whole thing. So in some of my writing, that's kind of been my goal, is let's use this instrument and get all over the place. And maybe I've discovered that makes it a bit more challenging, but it also makes it interesting. So
You're never shy of a challenge. That's awesome. So Scott, so to put together a show with London Symphonia, we turn it over to you. You're helping to curate the show. I think it's fair to say you both are co-curating the show. So how do you put together a program like this, blending these elements together?
Sure. Well, as was mentioned before, Rant Maggie Rant has already done quite a number of performances with the orchestra. And so they have arrangements that have been worked out for the group. And in particular, for this concert, we decided to take 2 arrangements of Kevin Lau that he made, a name becoming familiar to London Symphonia as well. We just did an arrangement of his on the Sarah Celine concert. And but then it was my job to take what was originally a full orchestra piece and then bring it down into a brass ensemble. So that's what you call sort of a transcription. Kevin is the arranger, and I've taken and transcribed his music so it would work with brass instruments. And when they showed me the music and I heard it, I realized that this would actually work very well. I'd say primarily because Kevin is actually a very kind of brass-friendly composer, and he writes a kind of a music that's very suitable to be played on trumpets, horns, and trombones if they weren't already doing it in the orchestra. So I'm actually really excited to finally get into the room and hear these arrangements together, because I think it's going to work fantastic with the group. So, and then after that, it was, and those were some substantial pieces, was a number of songs that we discussed about trying to create a smooth flowing program, and pieces that the performers, the writers, the composers in particular, would feel comfortable having an arranger come in and work with. So, so there was kind of a little bit of an interesting path that I had working with Rant Maggie Rant this time, and in particular working with Barry's music. He had, I actually have done arrangements for 3 of his songs, and for 2 of them, when he sent me, I needed something to work with, so he sent me some recordings, but the recordings were actually incomplete when he sent them to me, which I thought was kind of an interesting place for me. So it was basically just, I can hear the singing and the guitar and all that, but the sort of the counter melodies and his own orchestrations hadn't been fully put into the recording. And so we were talking about, and he said, he gave me a word of confidence and said, you know, just go for what you're feeling when you hear the music. So at any rate, when I'd finished the arrangements and I did them, and but by the time that I'd finished the arrangements and sent them out, Barry had actually completed his recording, and he sort of sent them to me. Oh, why don't you come check out, you know, how I orchestrated? And what was kind of slightly shocking to me at the time was how different our orchestrations were. And one thing it showed, to me, I think what was really interesting was how a song can be interpreted in different ways. And but I was, of course, a little bit concerned because this is his music, and often a composer, a writer will allude to a song being almost like their child. I think it's a bit of an exaggeration, but so I said, Barry, oh my goodness, like I hope it's okay what I've done with your music. And I realized now it's quite different. And I talked a little bit, for instance, in this one song, Simple Love, it started with the line, "Winter is calling." And that inspired me to sort of bring out the French horn, and I wrote these kind of French horn melodies. Anyway, the long story short is Barry was incredibly generous to me, excited to try these new versions. And so what's great is for the concert, you're going to hear, you'll hear an interpretation that I had with the material. And then afterwards, I invite you to please go check out his recording, which is just now being released, of these songs as well, and hear them in the way that he fully visioned them, these beautiful songs.
That's a pretty neat process. You know, I guess it's about keeping an open mind on both sides, the original creator as well as the orchestrator. And, you know, I guess it's about being respectful and being trustful of one another.
That's hugely what it's about. And so I'll just say that this has been one of my favorite experiences working with Rant Maggie Rant. They're, as sort of was described, they're an ensemble that's interested in exploring. And that I felt that with all of our discussions and conversations about the music. So I think the program in the end, it's going to be, is quite, there's a lot of different kind of styles of music coming through, sort of woven together with a sort of a general Celtic feel. So yeah.
And there's two just straight up brass pieces, two English Renaissance pieces on this program too, right?
That's right, yeah. For me, when I hear Celtic music, and we started talking about writing original Celtic music, some thoughts that came into mind are, for instance, the kinds of scales that you will hear in Celtic music, often strongly rooted in what's called the Pentatonic Scale, which is a very, very old scale that you find throughout that music. And I find these similar kind of scales in this English Renaissance music as well. So there's a kind of a sound association, and then also with the rhythms like jigs and reels, as we were talking about. Those kinds of rhythms are quite indicative of Celtic music, but also you find in a lot of English Renaissance music as well. So those were the kind of things that associated. And also we are, I would say, primarily we perform a lot of classical music in the London Symphonia. These are classically trained players. So I felt it was also appropriate to bring in a little of what we do best to the concert as well.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, we're in COVID times. So, yeah, just recently reported how exciting. We're in the red zone now in London. So no in-person audience for us, but our show's going to go ahead. We've got all of these screens in between every single person who's singing or you know, playing a wind instrument or a brass instrument, which is everyone in the show. Oh, joy. But no problem. The show must go on. So, Rant Maggie Rant, yeah, that's right. It's good stuff. And you know, Rant Maggie Rant, you guys have performed like one show, I think, over the past 8 months. And
just one show, yes.
One show. And what did that feel like to finally get on stage? Or it was actually outside again, but
it was outside. It was amazing, and it was completely inspiring and rejuvenating to have. First of all, just even having the rehearsals to work together towards something again after what felt like an extremely long period of time. Mm-hmm. It definitely kind of relit that fire for the passion of making music and performing music. And so we were so grateful for that opportunity, and are really grateful for this one again, just to come together and work together and do what we all love.
Yeah. Yeah, bandmates and good friends too, right? So.
Absolutely, yeah. It's we call it's the Rant family, because you truly become, you know, a family.
So, Lindsay, just to wrap up, then, like, why are you looking forward to performing with orchestra? Like, isn't it? It's probably a whole lot easier to just perform with the band, but then you've got all this this huge creature called orchestra, and what, you know, for you, what's that like?
Well, you know, for me personally, it's just an amazing opportunity. And like I grew up a classical violin student, and you know, you look at orchestras and you admire them, and you know, think maybe one day I could be a part of that, and not even, let alone playing in front of an orchestra. And so that experience at this point to me is still just amazing. And as far as the band, just having all of those instruments fleshing out and making these arrangements so much bigger and more powerful, you have to experience it.
That's great. Thanks for joining us today, Lindsay Schindler, and thank you,
So,
Scott Good.
thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, it's our pleasure. So we're all looking forward to this concert. This is December 20th, 3 o'clock p.m. live from Metropolitan United. This will be a live streamed, live to air, truly live to air concert, I guarantee. And we're really looking forward to welcoming Rant Maggie Rant. This is the Frost, Fire, and Brass show. Thank you all, and enjoy the show.
Thanks.